Okay, good morning. So I hope you can listen as quickly as I can speak. So what I want to share with you for 25 minutes is some of the landscape of what's changing and the degree of change that's coming your way. It's always been true, but I suppose it's more true than ever. So this is all about thinking about how do we navigate the world that's already thinking for itself, or it will do very shortly. I think Kennedy said this well when he said that if we just look at the present and the past, we're sure to miss the future. And clearly most of us have spent our time in the past and are living in the present. So looking forward, I thought it might be quite fun to think about some of the past views of technology. Number one is the Business Manager Apprentice business books said that the data processing wouldn't last a year. And that was back in 1957. And you probably agree with me that that's not been true. So if that's not true, let's think about something else. What about the telephone? The mobile phone, of course, is what we all need to have today. It's mandatory to go out without your smartphone. It's impossible. You don't know how to navigate the world. But when the telephone was invented, it was offered to Western Union, the largest communications company in the world, and they turned it down. What was interesting is a few years later, the Bell Telephone Company bought Western Union. So it's incredibly dangerous to look at a technology that doesn't work very well, isn't very widespread, but ultimately will probably come and buy you. Number one, so that's number one. So thinking about one more thing, Pogue, who was an analyst for the communications industry, said in New York that it's very unlikely that Apple will ever bring out a telephone. And it said that in 2007. So what's happened since? So Apple have so far sold 2.5 billion telephones. So he didn't get that quite right. Let's think this a little bit further. So if you think about it, the IT industry wasn't expecting Apple to bring out a phone. And Microsoft at the time, Steve Ballmer, said that, okay, they might bring out a telephone, but they won't get any market share. And this is the percentage of profit that Apple gets from its smartphones in that industry. So thinking about a new technology being of not much use is dangerous. Even when it turns up, thinking that it might not amount to very much is dangerous. So understanding truly the impact of technology is vital for us to come to terms with. Now, thinking further on that front is what did it really matter? It wasn't about technology, it was about an ecosystem. It was about a network of applications that ran on that device that today is 1.9 million apps. And that's the thing that drove the use of that smartphone in particular, because there were plenty of phones around before that that did a perfectly good job. So it's always been said that Keynes says that it's better to be roughly right than precisely wrong. So when we make plans, it's a question of holding things loosely in our hands until we truly understand the real impact. There are many drivers changing the world, and we'll cover some of those later. I'm running a masterclass over there where we'll spend time thinking about the geopolitical changes that are going to impact each and every one of us and every nation on the planet. But today, these are the drivers that are impacting most of our organizations. And I thought just for once, I'll talk about population in one cell. And what's really interesting about this particular era, this next 75 years, and don't worry, I'm not asking you to plan your businesses for 75 years, but thinking China will lose half its population whilst you're still growing. That's true for many, many forecasters. If that comes to pass, which country is more likely to take up technology as a burning platform issue? Is it China, which is running out of people, or is it India with plenty of people? So the issue is what's driving change in some of those countries? And already China's losing in each and every year millions of population. They're very well aware of this issue. And of course now we know India is the largest population in the world. And Nigeria and the African nations are growing very rapidly. 7 of the top 15 by 2100 will be African nations. So the makeup and the mix of people, their cultures, behaviors, values, attitudes, is all going to impact. So is it about population, or is it about technology, or is it about both? Is it talent in our populations working with technology that will make the difference? And I thought it might be fun to put one slide up thinking about where we're going to live. So effectively, if you go forward the next 20, 30 years, we're going to have 70% of our population living in cities. And most of those will be smart cities. And those cities will generate the need for automation and technology like we've never seen before. So as a strategy, being a service provider to cities of the future is the way to go in one respect. There's an enormous opportunity of vast amounts of data, information, and value. So we're living now from the information era through the digital era. Now it's the intelligent era. Of course, everything is becoming increasingly virtualized, automated, quantified. Almost nothing is able to go ahead without it being quantified to some degree. And of course, the real issue, it's predictive. So we're moving from a world where we can analyze what we did and get insight. Now we're going to be forecasting what we're going to be doing and planning as a consequence. And that's far more accurate than ever before. So I thought it might be quite fun to look at a report we produced 2 or 3 years ago. And it was looking at 40 industries, and we looked at all of the drivers changing those industries, but the one common factor amongst all of them was automation and AI. So in every industry, in every place, for different reasons, everybody is thinking about how do I automate the sector I'm in to become more productive. So there's loads of jobs you can think about, automating tax filing, automating financial advisors in finance and legal. It could be prompt penetration. It could be automatic testing in some environments. You can read them for yourself. I'm not going to list these out, far from it. But the whole point is there are many new functions that automation will drive in the industries that recognize they need to have change. So even in agriculture, I went to the launch of a new tractor in Finland. And there was dry ice and smoke and dancing girls, and I've never seen anything as old-fashioned in my life. What was amazing, the tractor came out the ground, and the cab for the human being was an alternative extra. It was an optional extra. We don't need humans driving tractors. We're very inaccurate driving tractors. And having been on the roads yesterday, I think you're very accurate with your tractors, I can tell you, driving around the middle of this city. Anyway. The Society of Actuaries, which is the opposite of futures thinking, who are very thoughtful, information-led people, say the root cause of the failure of large organizations is strategic. So it's what you're doing, not how you're doing it, or how well you're doing it. And the issue is that many of us take our organizations for the way it was developed and how it's changed, but it's no longer relevant because the industry's moved on. And that Drucker said that is one of the biggest drivers of change for our organizations. And of course, that's something we have to take on board. You heard before, the ability to be agile is unbelievably difficult because what got us to where we are isn't necessarily going to get us to where we want to go. It's a completely new mindset and behavior attitude. So Amira said this about technology. We overestimate its capability in the short term, so hence FOMO, AI, and all that stuff. We overestimate the impact in the short term, but we always underestimate it in the long term. And that's the issue in town. I thought for fun we'd look at Moore's law. And Moore was around when I started my career in information technology, and no one believed him. And 10 years later, no one believed him. And 20 years later, no one believed him. This is one of those laws that's proven accurate for many years. So by 2050, technology will be 64 times quicker or price performant. What are you going to do with all that power and processing? But think about at the end of this century, it'll be 26,000 times more performant. What are we going to be doing with it? And that's what we need to plan for in terms of how we develop our businesses. IT has gone from doing almost nothing in the 50s, it was back office, batch, recording what we've done, to today, it's not just a disruptor, which of course it is, but it is the business. It's no longer as a supporter of the business. The very nature of technology in many firms is the business. It is the R&D department, it is the HR department, it is the marketing department. So increasingly technology has moved from back office to front office, and that's where we are today. Now, we could have fun talking about all of these technologies, many of which are already emerging. So the ability to network our brains can already be done, by the way. Ability to connect our brains to technology has already been done, our minds. Massively personalizing our virtual reality experience is already being done. So all of these are emerging technologies at the very forefront of each of those disciplines. Of course, space travel is no problem. But digital twins is going to be one of the ways that we experiment on a proposition before we build it. And whether that's a drug, whether it's a human being, whether it's a building, digital twins is going to be where an expertise is going to drive an awful lot of growth in the future. But these, of course, are the technologies here, the ones that are shifting our behavior, our attitude, our companies, our performance now. Everything from good old clouds to artificial intelligence and hyper-personalization, hyper-automation, Internet of Things, Internet of Nano Things, Internet of Behaviors, Internet of Emotions, all of those are crowding in at the same time. Holograms, virtual reality, extended reality, they're all developing at the same time, building this wave of new tech that's going to change the very nature of how we interact with that. And every one of your clients, everywhere in the world, are asking questions about how they will integrate and enact with their customer base and their supply chain. It's changing very rapidly. And of course, everything has to be environmentally friendly. So all of that being done at the same time. Now, I thought it might be interesting just to look at a few of the technologies and how much they're changing. Number one is, let's think about connection, communication, because we started with that with the smartphone. So the truth is, we've got about 10,000 satellites in space, of which 6,000 work, 4,000 are rubbish that just go around in circles. But we're going to have 50,000 within 10 years. So everybody on the planet is going to be connected with zero latency to everybody else in no time at all. Number one, massive communication. Number two, Internet of Things, Internet of Nano Things, tiny devices are going to allow us to interact with them about 4,000 times a day, whether we intend to or not. So there'll be 1 trillion of those devices around there you're interacting with, quantifying every experience for every reason we can imagine. And we talked earlier on, I think I heard mention of quantum. Quantum's coming, it's been talked about, it's on the way. It will have a big impact. And one of the things that I love recently, and you can take it as true or not, but the Chinese decided to tell us they've got a quantum device that they think can be a quadrillion times faster than the fastest supercomputer today. That is 1 million billion times faster. Now, even if it's only 1,000 times faster, not 1 million billion times faster, that means there is no issue about speed of processing, there's no issue about connectivity, there's no issue about bandwidth. What do you do? What are you going to do differently as a consequence of all those barriers being removed? Equally, the quantum internet will get rid of many of the issues of fraud and security, as use photon-type capability across the internet, and quantum blockchain also allows us to reach security levels that we haven't had before, or it will break the security we've already got. In fact, it'll do both at the same time. So let's think about AI for a minute. When I put this chart together, and I haven't bothered to upgrade it, because there's no point, it moves too quickly. This was 2 years ago. There were 400 generative AI companies across every sector and discipline you can imagine. And if you just slide down to the bottom, that's OpenAI. So though they are dominant today, there are many different versions and varieties and styles and applications of a general technology movement called artificial intelligence. And we'll do more of that in a moment. Let's think about that. In the past, we had sort of rules-based, large language model, deep learning, deep blue, etc. We had AI in the cloud, which was the first democratizing of the access to AI. And indeed, general AI, generative AI, came out a couple of years ago and took the world by storm. And that's got everybody interested in, and every boardroom and every director in every boardroom interested in what AI can do for them. And it's being implemented everywhere. There's no issue with that. Let's think about the future of AI. Full multi-mode. So AI that has no barrier in terms of what types of method it develops answers for. So full multimodal, merged generative AI, easy. Automated decision-making, and I'll come to that in a moment. Emotional and social, because it becomes sufficiently able to mimic human social and emotional behavior that it takes over a lot of care roles and many other environmental contact roles with human beings. Artificial general intelligence, which is the great nirvana, that's when AI decides what it wants to do and doesn't look to the past of how we wanted to do it before, and it invents new ways of doing it. So if you ask AGI, how can we reduce carbon effects on the world, it'd probably say remove humans, which probably wouldn't be a great answer in many ways. The good news about the rules of robotics, the first one is do no harm to humans, and the fifth one is don't disobey rule 1. So if we implement technology, which is a big issue, by the way, If you choose to implement AI for your clients in a way that's ethical, then maybe we can manage this. And of course, that's finally the biggest issue on the table. It's the ethical use of AI is going to be one of the biggest jobs, but most valuable jobs that sort of influence the value of brands all around the world. More, the autonomous digital corporation is one where AI will decide what market opportunity exists, it will identify that, it will develop a business plan, it will then hire and collect resources, money, people, subcontractors, sales distribution methods. It will execute that plan effectively, then it will exit the market and bring in the money. No human being involved, except to do the work. No decision-making of a human being. In fact, like many new airlines, they say to the pilots, apart from takeoff and landing, because we want to give you some experience, do not touch the controls. You are worse at doing it than the automated systems I've put into the aeroplane. Leave them alone. That was Asia Air implemented those rules. So, does AI matter? Well, number one, the dip here you saw in 21 was the massive hype in AI investment. It then dropped back, but if you look over the next 5 years, it's 4 times more investment and value in the AI market as you begin to mature about what it's going to do for us. It's going to impact in the next 10 years around about, I don't know, $13, $15 trillion of activity. So it is going to have a huge impact. I mean, how big is the world economy now? Shout out a number. That's to give me a rest, by the way. Okay, forget it. If you're in marketing, you know this, because your bit of business is smaller. It's 100 trillion. So 100 trillion, about 13 to 15% of the value of the world's activity is going to be generated and driven by artificial intelligence. This is mega important. So moving on, synthetic data, not produced by the activities of human beings, produced by machines and activity, is going to multiply 5-fold over this next these next 5 years. And of course, that has an issue about the dilution of information that AI sits on. So we need to be able to segregate synthetic data from real data. So some real issues there. And of course, there's the other side of the coin. There's the robotic physical side, where we get beyond the need for humans. Okay, it's not very often. But increasingly, robotics are getting far more agile, as you can see here, a little example. Facial expressions getting more realistic, and then put your capability of AI into that machine, and you've got somebody who can replicate a human being without needing brakes. So they've got an alternative opportunity in many ways. And by the way, if a machine is 15% cheaper than a human being, people invest in the machine. And these things are dropping in price dramatically. You can buy one of these for about $250,000 if you really want one. So we're not just automating humanoid robots, because that's fun. We're automating building buildings. In the United Arab Emirates, they're building more buildings with this than anywhere else. We're automating how we can help people who can't move well move. We're even automating clearing your blood system with cholesterol clearing nanobots in your bloodstream. So robotics can be the largest thing or the smallest thing that gets inside our body and outside in our environment. And by the way, a building built with this can be recrushed and repasted and remade. So it's the ultimate sustainable building. So let's think about the future then. So engaging with the future is going to be the thing that drives many of our organizations. How do we increasingly work with technology? As you can see here, technology already is good at doing all of these things over this side of the chart. And we are better at the moment of doing the things over here. Engagement, sense-making, project development, project management, synthesizing information that we're gathering. We're better than machines, but don't bank on that for very long. Equally, in every area of our activity, there are new jobs. And this is the exciting thing for us. Our teams, our clients, is it a prompt engineer? Is it AI model fine-tuner? Human feedback integrator? Is it somebody who aligns technology with people? Is it somebody who is a cognitive architecture architect? Is it a federated learning coordinator? Have you got those jobs already, by the way? So these are like many things of the past. They didn't exist. Now these things are coming. There's a whole new raft of jobs and more. whether it's in the area of ethics, as I've said, and safety. It's about an AI regulator, a researcher. Is it about deepfake mitigation? Because that's a big issue, of course. Is it in AI transformation? Is it smart automated consultant? Is it corporate IT literacy coach and consultant? There are many new roles because we're using technology in ways we didn't use it before, and therefore we have to be better, and we have to help our clients be better at how they use these tools in their marketplaces. So, what Jack Welch said this: look, the leader's job is to look into the future and see the organization as it should be, not as it is now. So what do I need to look like if I'm going to be agile? Where am I going? And therefore, what have I got to do to change to get there? One of the ways is data-driven decision-making. Believe it or not, for example, in the whole marketing industry, the agencies, very little of that was data-based. Now it is data-driven, for sure. Of course it is, by the analytics. What is strategic planning? If you use, I don't know, scenario planning, backcasting, futures wheels, if you use any of those tools to work out where your business is going, you can do these in 2 seconds. You don't have to spend 2 days in a workshop. These things are coming at you fast. So do you change strategy almost like tactics? We can change our strategy very rapidly and work on the next. Or do we increasingly work on strategies at different areas of our business at more detail? Because we can. Personalization, massive personalization. So hyper-personalization of everything, because we have the data and the information to have what Drucker called years ago, the market of one. So we're going to have about 8.5 billion people on the planet. That's 8.5 billion marketing strategies. That's 8.5 billion ways of engaging with individuals. And we're situals, so we change our attitude depending on our situation as well. So it's not just 8.5 billion. Equally, we've got ethics and responsibility of AI governance. And of course, we need to move on with lots more ways of changing the way we manage our businesses, augment our decision-making, so we use AI in our decision-making as part of a process, not just an adjunct. It's integrated with us. So, thinking about it any further, we've got, I don't want to talk to that. I've got 3 slides I want to end with, which is what response might you make if you think about all of these things. You've heard before your strategic response as a movement, which is amazing. So moving up the value chain is the obvious thing, as not just a service provider, but helping your clients to manage all of these issues. Because you've got the brains, the experience, the capability, the resources to increasingly work with them across all of those roles I described. So shifting up the value chain. Investing in talent to move from what's got us to where we are now to the tools and techniques and approaches that we need to take on board to become relevant as we go forward. 2 more slides. First one, embrace productization. Taking service levels and packaging them in a way that can be taken to your clients so they understand it, which is the key issue here. Not that you understand it, so that they understand the relevance of it for them. Equally, reskilling the workforce at scale, which is retraining developers in prompt engineering and all of the other things I've mentioned. It's about human and AI collaboration. How good are you at it, integrated in your workflows, and how can you bring that to your clients? And finally, leading India as a global ethical player for artificial general intelligence. Eric Schmidt, who is the CEO of Google, is talking about artificial general intelligence in the next 3 to 5 years. I call it 5 to 10 to be kind. But if it happens in the next 3 to 5 years, then we have to think very differently about how we did things before and become almost subservient to the technology we employ. And equally, focus on India's specific needs when approaching these issues about multilingual capabilities with your clients all over the world, rural access for healthcare and education, and smart governance and public infrastructure. You've got an amazing opportunity. You're at an amazing position of changing how your clients can embrace all of these new technologies and become more successful. So I wish you well, but the number one thing is don't use existing models. Invent your own business models, your own approach for the world, so that you can become more successful. Thank you very much.